Hiya and happy Monday, everybody. Another sunny day here. Hope you're all doing well and are coping in this slightly easing off of this lockdown. Our boys will be going into school next week, so things are changing a little bit. We're going to be talking tonight about how strong of a disciple are you? Disciple is it's like Christian jargon, basically. How strong of a follower of Jesus are you? Some of you may know that Paul and I have done triathlons in the past. I haven't done one for quite a while. I guess I've got a bit of an excuse for having a baby and the lockdown. And triathlons, you can't just be really good at swimming, which probably I am. You have to be really good at swimming, really good at running, really good at cycling, or swimming, cycling, running, to be really good at triathlons. If you're just good at one of the parts, then it's good, but you'll probably struggle to compete with the Johnny and Alistairs around. So really, with triathlon, you need a strong beginning, middle, and end. When we came to Knoll, one of the things that Paul and I spoke about was preparing young people for when they go off to university and preparing them to have a lifelong faith. And we talked about introducing faith foundations. So I've just asked Paul if he could just chat about that for 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Time it, if you like.
So, there were 16 components that we chose to reflect on. Some of them are spiritual disciplines, which were written about in a book by Martin Saunders, things like prayer and fasting and the word and time spent in solitude. And then we added in a couple of, 6 extras. So we talked about the Trinity, we talked about belief in Jesus being the Son of God, and we talked about a belief in eternity. And these 16 faith foundation factors we felt were foundational for all Christians to have a strong faith in the future. That's the faith foundation.
Thanks, Paul. And we're going to just read a short passage from Acts in the Bible. It's just after the Gospels, after Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Acts. And we're going to carry on from where we left off yesterday. So we're on Acts chapter 18, starting at verse 18, and we're just going to read 10 verses this evening about Paul and how when he was hanging with Priscilla, Aquila and Apollos. Thank you, Paul.
That's good. So Paul stayed on in Corinth for some time. Then he left the brothers and sisters and sailed for Syria, accompanied by Priscilla and Aquila. Before he sailed, he had his hair cut off at Cenchreae because of a vow he had taken. They arrived at Ephesus, where Paul left Priscilla and Aquila. He himself went into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. When they asked him to spend more time with them, he declined. But as he left, he promised, "I will come back if it is God's will." Then he set sail from Ephesus. When he landed at Caesarea, he went up to Jerusalem and greeted the church, and then went down to Antioch. After spending some time in Antioch, Paul set out from there and travelled from place to place throughout the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. Meanwhile, a Jew named Apollos, a native of Alexandria, came to Ephesus. He was a learned man, with a thorough knowledge of the Scriptures. He had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and he spoke with great fervour and taught about Jesus accurately, though he knew only the baptism of John. He began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they invited him to their home and explained to him the way of God more adequately. When Apollos wanted to go to Achaia, the brothers and sisters encouraged him and wrote to the disciples there to welcome him. When he arrived, he was a great help to those who by grace had believed, for he vigorously refuted his Jewish opponents in public debate, proving from the Scriptures that Jesus was the Messiah.
Amen. Right, thank you, Paul. So the verse kind of in the middle of that passage that Paul read just now, verse 23, talks about, it says that Paul, from the passage, not this Paul, travelled from place to place, strengthening all the disciples. So he spent time, and his mission, one of his missions, wasn't just to kind of convert people, then run away. He spent time, put effort into strengthening their faith, to making sure that they were carrying on with the walk and carrying on with the journey in being a Christian, and not just kind of carrying on at the same level, but increasing their faith and strengthening them. It was really important to Paul for that to happen. If Paul were here right now, what would he say to you? He would want to know, how strong of a disciple are you? How is your faith? And what can we, Paul and I and the youth team, what can we do to help you with that and help strengthen your faith, especially at this time? And also, how can you build up your friends' faith with one another, maybe in your home group, or if you kind of Zoom chat and pray with any of your friends. I was really encouraged to have a message from a young person Sunday it was, yesterday, just asking me how I was doing and asking how she could pray for me. And so it works both ways. It's not just us saying, how can we strengthen your faith, but we would appreciate prayer always for our faith to be strengthened too. But do get in touch if there are specific prayer requests you might have of how we can help you and support you at this time. So that question again, how strong of a disciple are you, and how can we support you in getting stronger? So thanks for listening this evening, and we'll see you at a slightly earlier time tomorrow of 7:45. So thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, guys.